Hi, good morning, boys and girls. This looks different, but I'm going to try to read behind the bedroom wall today using this feature of this app that I am using to see how it goes. Okay? So just bear with me. I'm new to this, I'm just learning. So if I make a mistake, so just be more patient with me. But I am now going to continue reading chapter 10. So, chapter 10. Karina aimed the snowball carefully. Then, in one fluid motion, she let the missile fly from her hand, directly at Rachel's face. But when the snowball hit its target, it turned out to be a glass ball instead of one made of snow, and it shattered into a million brilliant shards, each one piercing Rachel's skin. And Rachel just stared at her attacker with wide, innocent eyes, filled with tears. Then came the banging, a loud, solid banging, sounding as if God were knocking on the steel colored clouds, demanding to be let down to earth. Karina woke up, but the banging continued. It wasn't God knocking from above, it was someone pounding in the front door below. She heard her father walking down the stairs. Karina's mother came into her room. Are you awake? She whispered through the darkness. Yes, mother, what's going on? Who's at the door? Karina asked as the banging continued. It must be the Gestapo, Frau Rem said, her voice trembling with anxiety. No one else would come in the middle of the night. Karina's heart shuddered her chest. Karina's heart shuddered in her chest. The Gestapo? But why? Will they find the Krugmans? She sat up, her hands clenched tightly on her blankets. Hush, there's no time for questions now, her mother said as she softly knocked a rhythmic beat against Karina's wall. She stopped and then repeated the prearranged warning once again. Pretend you are sleeping, she told her daughter, and she quickly left the room as they heard the front door open and the booted officers stomp into the small front hall. What's going on? Karina heard her father demand. This is a search, said one of the officers in a brusque voice. There are some stinking Jews hiding in this area, and we want to make sure they're not here. We are loyal Germans, loyal to the Fourier. Her Rem protested, glancing at her Fourier's picture. It's easy to hang a picture, said a second man. Karina recognized Hans' voice. Did Rita know her brother was searching her best friend's house? Maybe Rita herself told him about her black notebook. But no, Rita wouldn't do that. She was her best friend, and she promised she wouldn't tell anyone. Karina could hear banging and stomping downstairs. Soon the noise made its way upstairs. Go in there, Hen said to her parents. She heard them move into her own room. When her door swung open, she closed her eyes tightly, and she heard the heavy hammering of her heart pounding in her ears. She saw the bright stab of light behind her eyelids as someone aimed a flashlight at her from her doorway. Then the light moved away. Karina watched through slitted eyes as Hans walked into her room and looked under her bed. She walked over to her closet. She held her breath. He opened and shut each drawer with a snap. Then he opened the cupboard like doors behind, which she hung her blouses and skirts. Pushing aside the clothes, he felt the back of the wardrobe. Karina was sure Hans must be able to hear the frantic pounding of her heart and her erratic breathing. Finally, Rita's brother closed the wardrobe doors with a bang and stalked out of the room, a frown pulling at his face. He looked as if he were disappointed at not finding anything. Karina didn't dare move until she was positive she was really alone in her room. Then she tried to relax her rigid body and her clenched fist, but she couldn't. She listened to the men search the bathroom and then moved into her parents' bedroom. She only heard the swish and the snap of drawers being opened and closed. Suddenly, her father's voice rang out. Leave those alone. Burned, no, her mother cried. Something heavy fell against her parents' desk. Terrified, she scrambled out of bed and raced into her parents' bedroom. Everyone turned to look at Karina as she ran into the room. She stopped abruptly, her heart pounding as she took in the scene before her. Her father was sprawled on the floor, partially raised up against the foot of the desk. A narrow line of blood trickling from his nose shone in the bright overhead light. Her mother crouched protectively beside him, and hands stood menacingly over the two of them, holding the brass figurine in his fist, ready to strike again. Karina said, no, Karina cried, immediately running to her father's side, tears stinging her eyes. What have you done? She demanded, looking up at Hans' face. Go back to bed, her father commanded, struggling to stand up. His wife took his arm to help support him. Be careful, Bernd. Hans looked as if he would step toward or forward to hit her rim again. No, Hans! Karina said, standing up and suddenly moving forward to hold back the officer's arm. Leave him alone, please, she begged. Hans shook his arm free and looked down at Karina with a scowl. Karina remembered playing tag with Hans when he had been young. She even remembered having a crush on him at one time, giggling and following him around like a puppy. It seemed like so long ago. Did he remember? So this is the scene of that part that I just read. That's Hans's Karina and her parents down on the floor. Slowly he lowered his arm and tossed away the figurine. It thudded onto the floor. Come, he said to his fellow Gestapo officer. Then he took another sweeping look around the room before turning sharply on his booted heel and marching out of the room. The Rems didn't speak as they listened to the two men stomp down the stairs and finally out the front door, leaving it gaping open behind them. They heard the car roar to life, then drive off. Apparently, they were through searching the neighborhood for the night. Not until the sound of the car was swallowed up in the quiet of the night did Karina dare breathe again. Then all the tension left her, and her knees started to quiver. Now her father sat on the edge of his bed, his red hair an unruly mass around his head, holding a white cloth to his nose. Karina's mother came over to her daughter and hugged her, rocking her back and forth. It's over now, dear, she crooned. Karina sniffed back her tears. What happened? Why did Hans hit Papa? They were searching through my drawer with the photographs in it. Papa worried they would ruin them with their rough hands. See, they ripped out one there, she said, nodding toward the precious photograph of Karina's grandfather, which now lay on the floor, practically in two pieces. Bad Nazis, growled Karina's father. Insanity, he said. That's what it is, insanity. He turned to his daughter. Are you all right, Karina? She nodded. It was very brave of you to step forward like that, but also very stupid. Next time, stay in your room, he ordered. Karina felt the sting of the reprimand. But I know Hans. You know Hans. He shouldn't have been treating you like that. We knew the old Hans, Karina. Things have changed. People have changed. It's too dangerous to intercept the Gestapo. They don't listen to reason. They don't listen to anybody, Karina. Now go to bed, her mother said gently. Karina slowly walked back into her own room and got into bed. She wasn't too anxious to rejoin the dream of throwing a ball of glass at Rachel, but she closed her eyes anyway. She blew into her icy hands, trying to warm them. They still trembled. A few weeks ago, she never would have believed she could be as frightened as she was right now. Hadn't she recently told her mother she had nothing to fear from anyone because she was a loyal German? And now what? Now she was a traitor, and it seemed she feared almost everyone. Suddenly, no one could be trusted. Should she trust Rita, her best friend? Or should she trust the Krugmans, the hated enemy? And who did she love? Of course, she loved her parents, but they were traitors to the fatherland, and she had always loved her fourier. But now his officers were frightening her. Nothing made sense anymore. So, that's the end of chapter 10. That was a very intense chapter, wasn't it? I am just glad that when Hans went to Karina's bedroom, that he did not, while he was banging the wardrobe and all that, that the wall did not move or the wall did not fall down, and found out that there were two people behind the wall. So now let's see what's going to happen in chapter 11. I am going to continue tomorrow, boys and girls. And for now, enjoy the rest of the day.